Okay, the class starts this afternoon making the following question. What kind of differences could you find between alternative evaluation and traditional evaluation according to your previous knowledges that you bring today, please? Tell me, what kind of differences probably we can find between traditional and alternative evaluation? What kind of ideas do you have today about this point? Can you explain me something, please? Something about this question? Tell me, what kind of differences could you find between? As quickly as you can, please. If you have, really? You have anyone? Deliana, Obed, and
Uh,
others? Tell me. Don't worry you made
I
mistake, please.
I
I would like to hear you. Tell me,
I
Luifer.
think traditional evaluation.
Uh-huh. Tell me.
I think traditional evaluation used to focus more into quantitative aspects,
Yes.
but alternative evaluation try to give more focus to the qualitative aspect.
Yes, in this case. Okay. Other opinions, please? Tell me. Other opinion more, please. I need that you try to reintegrate your point of view, your ideas, your previous
Um,
knowledges. Tell me, which could
Personally,
be.
I think that the difference between alternative and traditional evaluation is the part of the that traditional evaluation primarily relies on writing exams or
Uh-huh.
tests and
Yes.
standardized tests. It's
Uh-huh.
like measuring maybe knowledge and problem solving skills. And the alternative evaluation or the kind of alternative evaluation is more dynamic for many aspects or strategies
Mm-hmm.
to be that the kids are more or to be more a significant impact in the process of knowledge of them, I
Okay.
think.
Are you thinking, or do you think that our English teacher or French teacher, are you using a specific kind of evaluation? This kind of evaluation probably is it a traditional or an alternative? What are you thinking? Or maybe those teachers combined. What kind of answer, please, can you share with us? What kind
I
of
think
evaluation? Uh-huh.
that right now they are mixture of both because
Yes.
some teachers use traditional evaluation like a oral test or writing test, and maybe another kind of teacher apply for the
Yeah.
alternative evaluation in dynamic ways like like more funny or to
Yes.
be more dynamic the class. So I think it's a measure of both.
Okay, excellent point of view. However, when I am talking about traditional evaluation, that to be probably could be a common evaluation. That means that that's no could be bad kind of evaluation. Yes, not all traditional evaluation is bad, absolutely. Yes. And on the other hand, we have an alternative evaluation. That could be, as you say, fun. Yes. But on the other hand, an alternative evaluation, for example, when I ask you, when I name an alternative, or when some author called this kind of evaluation an alternative, it could be because it's a kind of open evaluation. Yes, not only for evaluate the students' reactions or evaluate the students' process. That could be one reason, but not all. When I speak about an alternative, probably they change the point of view for evaluating the students' progress. But at the same time, probably the teachers break the way for evaluate the students' progress. They are not thinking in the product. They are thinking in the progress of the students. So they try to include in the evaluation plan other kind of strategies for assessing the students' progress. But at the same time, they try to assess the students' learning process using other kind of instruments. For example, the observations, how is the students in front of the content that teacher teach in the room, in the classroom. On the other hand, what kind of activities, for example, the students try to use by themselves in order to learn the language. As you know, in the class today, some of your classmates in their presentation about reading comprehension or reading it was about reading pillars. I don't know if you remember. Yes, today, one of them explained something related with reading comprehension or comprehension in this case. And one of them named this expression like some students are learning, for example, English, yes, using different kinds of strategies. Yes, it could be a kind of example. Some teachers put out, yes, but they don't crossing out the test, the written test, absolutely. Later, English teachers are using written tests at the end in one specific moment. We can work with other kind of techniques to assess the student's learning process. We can use, for example, in this case, a portfolio, different kind of portfolio we have. We have showcase portfolios, we have assessment portfolios, and other kind of portfolios. Yes, you know. This is a specific strategies to assess the students' reading progress, English reading progress. Yes, how to teach English using portfolios in this case, using essays, using reflections, written compositions, another way for improve their reading process or reading and writing process in this case. Sorry, I'm talking about writing, not reading. So how you know if you are going to teach English, you have to think in different kinds of skills: listening, speaking, reading, writing, culture. This is critical thinking. According with the skill that you need to develop in your classroom, according with the students' need, you are going to develop and you try to first create a reflection, and through that you have to think what kind of an alternative activities or strategies probably change the student's point of view about the traditional evaluation followed by other teachers in other disciplines. Did you know? We can work using performance oral presentations, creating work a project, a specific project, talking, if you decide to talk about different methodologies that you develop in your classroom for teaching English. It's a complex process. Evaluation is a complex process. Why? Because you always are thinking in if you decide to choose two ways, traditional or an alternative process for teaching. Both ways are you probably keeping a balance. Yes. However, we have to think that some aspects of some strategies related with the traditional evaluation probably could be good for you. Yes, why? Because you're currently as a product, you are a product, sorry, you are a product of the system, of the old system, of the traditional system of the evaluation and teaching and learning process. And you copy and paste in your life and in your own process for teaching, yes, the same process of the evaluation that your teachers, your English teacher, use in their learning process. And you sometimes copy that process and paste in your attitude, in your strategies that you use for teaching. Yes. However, according with your own experience that you had gotten in your classroom teaching English, probably through your own reflection, you are thinking, oh, those traditional ways for teaching, for learning, and for assessing your students, they don't work in this moment. So I have to think you are going to start using other kind of way. You start walking, finding different kind of strategies for change the point of view of your own students, and they try to understand that we have other way for learning, for teaching, and for assessing your students. As you know, we have different kind of situations for using an alternative evaluation. What does it mean for you? Probably we have some weaknesses and strengths for applying an alternative evaluation. Why? Because it depends of the number of students that you have in your classroom. You know, we have in some occasions, we have 20, 25, 18, 25 students, 30, 35, or 45 students in your classroom. For that reason, you have to get the moment for thinking about what kind of strategies for teaching English you probably applied. On the other hand, what kind of evaluation can help you to save the time, to correct the students' exercises, to give them feedback, to recognize if your students understood everything, that they are going to be able to apply the knowledges that you taught before, and how they are going to use those knowledges by themselves. The idea through the evaluation, applying a good evaluation plan, a good teaching strategies, is that you want students learn the language by themselves. You have to encourage them to find a way for learning by themselves without you. You just try to assume the role as a monitor, as a no controller. Have you know the traditional evaluation is a controller? Yes or no? To be a controller in the classroom is not bad. Sometimes we have to becoming a controller teacher. You have to assume that role as a teacher. Yes or no? However, sometimes you probably try to, according with the students, according with the atmosphere in the class, according to the students' reaction in front of the content, according with the different tools that you use for teaching them, you are going to organize, yes, or using other kind of in this way, using other kind of evaluation strategy. In this case, you could use an alternative way for change the way for teaching and for assessing your students. Yes. However, we are going to share with you some points recommended by other authors. Yes, that was about how to use, in this case, the what kind of differences could you find between traditional and alternative evaluation, and on the other hand, which could be better for you? Yes. Okay, let me show you this one. Okay, can you see this presentation, guys? Can you please ask me this question? Can you see or no?
Yes.
Okay, this is the definition of assessment, right? Assessment could be an
Of
alternative way for
course.
assessing. Yes, the definition of evaluation is different in our country that you are going to speak about evaluation in London. Because over there, as a British teacher, they are thinking not only the evaluation, they are thinking in the assessment process. Why? Because the evaluation is synonymous of assessment. But in the United States, in Mexico, from Canada, until Patagonia, just our teacher, English teacher, are using evaluation as a whole. We are going to consider assessment. We are going to consider the testing. Yes. Why? Because in 70s, other teachers like Scriven, for example, Scriven could be the father of the formative evaluation. We have different kinds of evaluation. We are going to use the evaluation to form your students, yes, in values, how they are going to use your context to teach responsibility, punctuality, tolerance, respect, and other values. Yes, and assessment could be an alternative way of the evaluation. Assessment, as you see, is the process of gathering information on students' learning. You gather evidence through how is the student's reaction in front, not only of the content, in front of you as a teacher, in front of the subject, and in front of your classmates, of the classmates. So, definition of the evaluation. Evaluation is the process of analyzing, reflecting. Reflection is a new part of the evaluation today. But in 70s and 60s and 50s, teachers didn't use that term in the evaluation definition. Reflecting is out, crossing out. Yeah. But now we are going to include this feature in the evaluation definition. Evaluation could be the process of analyzing, reflecting upon, and summarizing assessment information. Why assessment? Because the evaluation is a large process where the teacher tries to get and collect different kinds of information from the students. Yes, how the students for example, learn the content, how the students participate in the classroom, how is the student relationship with you, with the subject, with their classmates, and make a judgment. Yes, this is the goal. This is the goal for making a judgment or judgments or decisions based on the information collected. Yes, this is the definition of evaluation. For that reason, if you are going to know the differences between those above terms, assessment is a part of the evaluation. Assessment is related with values, process, but evaluation has a specific part, and this part is the product. The product, in other words, is the testing. Why? Because through this information that you have gathered through the process of learning, you need to give your students a grade. Yes or no? According with different kinds of scale. Yes. Now, we have an assessment and we have an evaluation. Why I taught you this one? Why I teach you this one? Assessment and evaluation. I take, yes, some features or characteristics for everyone according with the meaning, definition, nature, what it does, purpose, orientation, how is the feedback, relation between parties, criteria, and measurement standards. According with the definition, as you know, we have studied a lot about assessment and evaluation differences. We have assessment is a process of collecting, reviewing, and using data for the purpose of improvement in the current performance. How the students can improve. You are going to help them. Not only do you try to give the students the content, they have to learn the content. That could be the best student for getting 20, 19, 18. You have to watch. You have to see how is the student relation with others. How the student is tolerant and respect you and the rest of the classmates. Yes. Meanwhile, evaluation is described as an act of passing judgment on the basis of set of standards. Yes, and that's all. However, you are going to use for both criteria and indicators. Yes or no? If you are working, speaking, reading, and writing for everyone on critical thinking or culture, you need to use a specific criteria for every one of the skills that you need to develop in your own students, right? What kind of criteria you need to work for everyone. However, in the evaluation, you only give them a grade and that's all. You are going to assess your student and you need to plan before a written test, and this test collect important information through the items. Through those items, you are going to know if your students absolutely dominate the content taught by you before. Yes. What is the nature of everyone? Assessment is a diagnostic. Always, when you are going to start a period of learning process, you need to apply a diagnostic. Always, you need to recognize the previous ideas that they have according with different contents. Yeah. How is the student according with different grammar points before starting your classes? Yes. This is a diagnostic moment of the assessment. But on the other side, we have the evaluation. Evaluation just gives you a judgment. Yes, judgmental. You need to give them a specific grade. Yes, you are going to place your students according with different kind of scales. This student, according with the scale over 10 or over 20, you need to give them a grade at the end, and that's all. Probably you can give them other letters, for example, A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. But in our country, we're working with different scales according with different system, educational school system. Yes, if you're working, for example, in our system, you're working from 0 or 0, 1 and 20. Yes or no? What is that? How does it work? For example, provides feedback to your students and to you as well on performance and areas of improvement. What kind of activities, strategies do you need to improve? As you know, this is a kind of cycling. This is a cycle that you are going to apply every year and every year. And every year you probably change some moments in order to improve the student's skills. However, through the feedback, you are going to give your students help. You are going to give them strategies, advices, or suggestions in order they try to find the way for improve their learning process. Yes, the feedback is the best moment, is the focus of the assessment. Yes, however, in the evaluation determines the extent to which objectives are achieved. Yes, evaluation are working on the goals, but in the objectives in this case. No goal as a goal is like goal is using the term goal in the evaluation is like let me see, is a subjective, it's a qualitative term. Why? Because you are going to describe how is the student's behavior, how is the students behind the test. Yes, probably your students have gotten 10, 12, 11, or probably 8, 08, or 07, I don't know. However, your students probably they have a specific condition to improve their learning process. We have different students with different weaknesses for learning. You know, we have TDAH. We have students with, I am going to use this autism. Yes, some conditions that avoid that your students go on, yes, in the similar way used by other regular students, you know, yes. When we are going to speak about auditive, when you talk about auditive in evaluation, what does it mean? We are going to go back when the evaluation was created in 60s and 70s and 80s. The students, for example, the teachers are working in the auditive. The students, the teacher, for example, teach the verb to be, and the students are going to dominate how we are going the declination of the verb to be with the third person singular third person, and so on. Yes, the students, for example, can use is, he, she, it is. However, that's the goal. That's not the goal. This is the objective. Yes, determine and recognize the declination of the verb to be. The other is recognize the color of the fruit. This is the objective. But what is the goal? What is the goal? Well, the goal is the students try to use the color correctly before a noun. You know the difference? Yes, this is the goal. The students can use the language in a real context. This is the goal. Yes, the other is the student dominate the colors. The other way, use the perfect, recognize the perfect declination of the verb to be in simple present tense. This is the objective are achieved by your students. Yes, that could be. But what happens if you are going to dominate just the contents and you are unresponsible students? Unresponsible students is the other face of the coin that you need to help your students to recognize that they have different kind of weaknesses, and over those weaknesses, your students need to work with you in order that they try to improve, to get better this moment of their learning process. Yes, assessment is how to use the language in real contents. Evaluation are going to use the language in the real contents, but how, yes, what kind of grade are going to give your students according with the knowledge that they have, yes, in the objective that you create in your evaluation plan of learning or teaching plan. That's all. Yes? Okay. Now, we have, sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm going to crossing out this advertising. Okay, what is the purpose of the assessment? It's formative. Yes, in the evaluation, it's summative. Formative, the teacher thinking, the teacher need to create reflection about how is the student's progress during one period of the learning process. Yes, this is my first lapse of term of my school, in my school. Yes, I'm working for 3 months. Okay, though we are going to work 1 point or four topics or 4 theme for every term or for every lapse. Okay, what kind of activities, what kind of strategies are you going to use for teaching, and for evaluating your students? Yes, formative. Not only thinking in the contents, you need to think you are going to combine, you are going to mix, for example, the contents with other kinds of strategies. This is an alternative process. Yes, this is orientation is a process oriented. Why? Because you are going to be a monitor, not a controller. You are going to help your students. Yes, you are going to give you feedback. You are going to get along with them, with your students. You are trying to keep a good relationship with your students. You need to help in order that they try to change and try to be a better person. Yes, product oriented. This is you think in the last moment of the evaluation. Only give them a grade, and at the end, your students need to get just the alternative planned with you in your plan. This is dominate, determine, and recognize the declination of the verb to be in simple present tense. That's all. This is the evaluation, Yes? Feedback based on observation and positive and negative point, advantages, disadvantages, weaknesses, and strengths of your own students, right? You are thinking not only of them, you are thinking in your own process of teaching. Evaluation based on the level of quality as per set standard. Yes, as you know, we're working according with some objective, according with some criteria, but it's not criteria. Those aren't standard. Criteria is according with every teacher. My criteria probably are different. If you are going to think in other teachers that they are teaching English as well. Yes, however, I am autonomous teacher. Yes, I'm autonomous teacher because I have different kind of students with different conditions, with different reactions, with different behavior, and every class is a different culture. Inside my classroom, my life sharing with other students, yes, is different if we are going to compare with other sections. Every section, every class is a different culture. It's not the same culture, Yes? Okay, meanwhile, the feedback, okay, this is the relationship between parties, is reflective. Yes, beyond the evaluation. Yes, reflective is thinking how you can improve your own strategies for teaching and how the student improve their learning strategies. Yes, prescriptive is before the teaching process and the learning process, you have some roles that you need to follow for achieve your goal. That's all. This is the evaluation. Yes, evaluation are thinking in the last period of the evaluation, in the history period, in the 70s, in 80s, in 90s. Yes, criteria that you prepare, that you think what kind of criteria we're going to assess. Well, what you're going to use to assess, for example, oral presentation, written compositions, role plays, portfolio assessment, another. What kind? For example, if you're going to assess the written process, we're going to evaluate the students, let me see, an essay, a written composition, a reflection about storytelling, I don't know. For example, we are going to assess the grammar, coherence, punctuation, capital letter, mechanic, cohesion, precise, and others. The speaking, fluency, vocabulary, content, grammar, pronunciation, intonation, and so on. Yes, this is what kind of those criteria probably you are going to use to assess your students. Yes. Okay. Criteria is set by both the parties jointly. What does it mean? Set by the evaluator. This is the last one. Criteria. You choose the criteria by yourself, according with every section, with every classroom, with every students. Yes. And meanwhile, the evaluator is those criteria are given to you by the evaluators, by the coordination of the evaluation, right? And the last one, measurement standards. This is absolute. Absolute is not standard. you are going to measure the students' knowledges. Yes, give them a description or feedback. You are going to share with your students advices to improve their process of learning. Meanwhile, the measure standard here in the evaluation is comparative, right? Because you need to compare your students' progress according with some criteria and indicators that here is impossible to understand easily. Probably we're going to share with you later a rubric where you are going to understand how we are going to compare the students that explain something in an oral expression, and you are going to compare the students according with some criteria and some reactions using a banding. Banding is a kind of techniques or tool to assess the students' oral presentation, right? That's this difference between assessment and evaluation. So we have 2 minutes to try to understand, yes, how is the differences between this is a traditional evaluation and responsive evaluation. This, for example, the evaluator, formally trained evaluators are the experts. Grantees, community members, know the best their issues and strengths. This is culturally responsive evaluation. This is an alternative. Role of the evaluator here in traditional is a leader, judge, expert, facilitator, translator, convener, coordinator, monitor. Yes? Design and planning. Evaluators present design and founder approval. Prioritizing or prioritizing, I think so, rapport and trust building in an inclusive planning process. Listen, inclusive planning process that infuses multiple worldviews. Yes, because we have different students with different needs and different conditions. You are thinking in your own students. Here, you are not thinking in your students in a traditional evaluation, right? Data collection. This is conducted by evaluation professional. He is facilitated by evaluator, stakeholders trained in some collection methods and implement them. Yes? Analysis result and their meaning are analyzed by evaluators. On the other hand, and as an alternative, we have results at their meaning derived based on culture and system analysis. Yes? Reporting given by the evaluators is written report of briefing to founder. This is a bulletin. Yes? This is disseminated to broader community. Yes. However, we are going to change this part because here we're going to use, this is a reporter, but you're going to describe how the students can improve using some advices or suggestions that they probably use to improve their own learning process. This is application of finding use as a monitoring and judging device. Here we have build capacity of community and community organizations, right? Here we have the others. We're going to finish. So we are going to give you an others. Si la clase termina, we are going to stop. We are going to start other class. I'm going to give you the assignment because I need to explain this part. This is traditional.